All right, so we're joined all the way from our nation's capital by the founder of Barter Black, Nicole Murphy. We thank you so much for joining us today to talk about this super cool business concept that is really pushing the envelope ahead of its time. We got a room full here with us at Velma Jackson High School. It's for our entrepreneurship class, and we're recording this for all of our friends in Madison County Schools, Madison Central, Ridgeland High School, Germantown High School, the Academic Option Center, and our YouTube channel. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
All right, so just give us a little background because you did not start your entrepreneurship journey until 2017. So just give us a little background. You went to Susquehanna University there in Pennsylvania. So just give us a little bit about what you did before and how you got to this point.
Yeah, so I graduated from college. I started working at Chrysler Financial. I had many positions there until we were all laid off in 2008. That was a huge year. Um, and did other things. I worked at a government contracting company. I worked at Radio One. Um, and then I found myself in the entrepreneur space. So I did a lot of things in the entrepreneur space. I have tried to start a t-shirt business. I think a lot of us start with there, but then I found my space in the Airbnb industry, where we clean and manage Airbnb properties, and that was in 2017. So we did that for a few years, and then the pandemic hit, and that's how Barter Black came about during the pandemic.
That's awesome. And like we said, Barter Black is really ahead of its time. It's unlike any other business concept I've seen. And we looked a little bit at the website and some of the things you do. And even the kids here with me now thought it was a very cool idea. So tell us where the idea was kind of built born from and what exactly Barter Black does.
Yeah, so like I said, during the pandemic, during the pandemic, I had my short-term property management company, and of course, when the pandemic hit, there was no one traveling. And it's crazy because I believe it was the New York Times who rated Washington, D.C. as the number one tourist spot in 2020. So I thought I was going to be rolling in money and the pandemic. So I was struggling. I was like, I built this business, it's been feeding my family, been paying my bills. And then overnight, it was just gone because of course people were canceling reservations. My clients were actually moving. They were selling their homes. So I saw how I was struggling, and it was painful, and I saw how other Black entrepreneurs were struggling and how we weren't necessarily set up to survive with something like a pandemic. So I asked myself the question, why aren't we helping each other? We have so many skills. We're so smart. There's no reason why there isn't a platform or a community, at least, that focuses on us actually coming in and showing our skills and our experience, what we love to do. So I just thought Barter Black, and that's how Barter Black was built. And I started working on it in 2020. I didn't launch it until 2022. And in 2022, we had our platform was basically direct exchanges. So you and I could, come together. We need each other's services and we can barter for the same value at the same time. But we found a barrier in that when we started to do customer discovery. I found that some of my subscribers or members were saying, well, I found someone I can barter with, but I don't necessarily need what they have in return. So it created a barrier where they wouldn't barter. So this year in August, we actually pivoted to integrate trade credits, which we call barter bucks. So now you're able to use trade credits to barter on the platform instead of the direct exchanges.
That's so cool. Now, something that you've pitched about and you talk about in some of your magazine interviews is you said even though funding is an issue in the Black community for Black owned businesses, it's not the main thing that you're focused on when it comes to changing things because you talked
Right.
about only, I think you said only 5% of Black owned businesses are employer controlled. So talk about that. And I may have had the number wrong there and the term wrong, but just talk about that because I thought that was very interesting and something I had never thought about.
Yeah, it's something most people don't think about. When you think about entrepreneurship and especially Black entrepreneurs, you think there's not enough funding, right? There isn't enough funding. But when you look at different statistics, Black-owned businesses account for less than 5% of employer-operated businesses in the United States. That means that all the businesses in the United States, Black entrepreneurs own less than 5% of that. And when you look at white-owned businesses, there's 80%. They own over 80%. So there's a hiring crisis. It's not just money. We have to figure out how to hire.
Yeah, and you mentioned about even though there's a huge growth in black-owned businesses, most of those are sole proprietorships or partnerships between husband
Yes.
and wife or friends, and that's great. And we encourage all of our young people to look into that. And we've had some great guests of this class, even some in the DMV that have done that. But when it comes to the ones that are really hiring a lot of people, you are correct, and that is something I never ever thought about.
Yeah, it's easy to go into business and say, "Oh, I have this amazing idea and I'm going to bring it to fruition," right? But I think that what we need to start doing is making sure that we're looking at the long term and not the short term. Like, where do you want this business to be in 5, 10, 15 years? And if you get there, how are you going to get there? It's not going to just be you. You have to have that team that's going to help you get there. And I want people when they start businesses to start thinking about that. Like, who is going to be on my team? How can I make it that $1 million brand that I want it to be? And it just creates a slower process when you're doing it by yourself, right? Like, I have to do every little thing in this business, and it makes it so much harder.
Yeah, and something that we talk about, and this is where your platform could be very useful, especially since COVID. There's more
Yeah,
and more businesses that are built to help businesses.
right,
We have another friend of this class in the New York City area, and her entire business is doing books and accounting for small black-owned businesses. So that is a
right.
perfect example of finding people to help you, finding other entrepreneurs that are out there to serve.
Right, exactly. It's important to find your team and the people who are passionate about it as just as much as you are. And it creates for an easier process in growing your business when you have that team on your side.
Now, you recently gave an interview in Baltimore about Barter Black, and you described it yourself as similar to Uber. So tell us a little bit about how the app works, how the program works, because I think I get it, and we talked about it and looked at it, and we think we kind of understand it. So just walk us through how the business works, because like we said, it's on cutting edge. This is unlike anything we've ever seen.
Yeah, so I say similar to Uber and Airbnb because I'm not sure if your students know this, but their parents were giving rides back in the day for $10 for gas money, and someone stay over at the house, you had to pay some rent, right? So we were doing that before Uber and Airbnb, but Uber and Airbnb created a process for it. They created a seamless way that you can do that and reach multiple people. So that's why I say Barter Black is similar because we're creating that process and we make it a lot easier for you to barter. So with the Barter Bucks, what you'll do is you'll join the platform and whatever your skills and expertise is, you list those to sell. So if you are, like you mentioned, someone in accounting, if they want to list bookkeeping services to sell, they can list those services. Once they sell them, they earn barter bucks. And once they earn those barter bucks, then they're able to purchase whatever they need in their business with anyone in the network on the platform. So they may need web design or something like that, or some type of marketing. This way, they aren't necessarily tied down to having to barter with, someone in return. So basically, we're creating that ecosystem where everyone is actually helping everyone out. It's an exchange, and the barter bucks makes it so much easier to process that and act like a freelancer platform. You know how there are many services on the freelancer platforms. Instead, you're spending cash, the cash that we can probably rechannel to other parts of our business operations. So if you barter on Barter Black, you're saving about 90% of the normal cost, and then you're
Wow.
able to use that money somewhere else because I mean with businesses there's always an expense somewhere.
Yeah, and this is something that's I didn't even think about. We had a guest last year, a local young entrepreneur here that was a braider, And she actually had
Mm,
a website where you could barter with her in exchange for braiding. So she said, I don't know anything about nails. If you do my nails, I'll braid your hair. And you could actually use
absolutely.
that as a form of payment. She called it service for service.
Yep.
And that's something that is becoming bigger and bigger. But what you did was just create an app where everybody can do that.
Yeah, yeah, and make it easier where you don't have to have that direct exchange. You can, just earn your barter bucks and spend it on whatever you want to spend it on. The system, I say when you join Barter Black, everyone on the platform is a part of your team because
Wow.
they're willing to exchange their services for barter bucks because they need things for their business too. So use it as your team.
Yeah. Now something that I ask a lot of guests this, and we've had several students from this program start businesses. Each some while they were still in high school. Most of them were just things to do on the side while to help pay for school and things of that nature. But still, the mistake that I see so many kids make is they get in the 15, 16-year-old mindset and say, I would only pay this. And it
Mm,
puts you at a disadvantage because you don't think bigger on the people you're trying to reach. So
yeah,
I tell people all the time, and I have kids that have great ideas, great concepts, great customer service, but then they start posting the prices, and I'm like, you're not charging enough. I mean, and I don't even do hair. I don't know anything about black women's paying for hair, but I can tell you they were not charging enough.
right.
So, what are some ways that you can overcome that? Because it is such an easy mistake to make starting out.
Yeah, it's so interesting you say that. And at the 15, 16, 17 year old, there are adults still doing the same thing. And what I tell people is price based on a team, not just on you. Some of us are pricing too low because we're saying this is how much I'll do it for, when you need to be pricing higher so you can pay other people to do the same thing that you're doing or to help you out in other ways. We're building a business here. So we have to make sure that we're priced accordingly. And I would say the first thing that you need to do is look at your competitors. Who is doing the same thing you're doing in the same area that you're doing, or even outside of that area, and compare what their quality of services are to what you're doing. Try to make yours better. Try to offer a better value proposition and charge higher. And that way, so it's interesting because when I was in the Airbnb industry, some of my clients would want to know what they could charge per night for their property. And the first thing that I did to help them is go see what other people were charging for the same property in the same area. And that's a good way to see where you should set your prices. But definitely don't set your prices based on just you. You want to anticipate a team in the future. So you want to charge what you're supposed to be charging now and don't wait till later.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that because we're about to have an assignment on that. They just don't know it yet about uh about competition. Now, and then you mentioned something else there about adding value. A term I use a lot is perceived value. So
Yes.
you can do things that are different that justifies charging more. So if you make
Yes.
things convenient for a user, like for example, we have another, and I love this example. We have another friend of this class in New York as well that runs a funeral home. And the way she is
Mm,
able to charge so much, she literally does everything for the funeral services, and they don't have to go anywhere else. So she makes it easy for the family, so she can charge almost double what the regular funeral home would charge, and nobody has any problems with it because she handles everything. So if you can
right.
do small things like that, that justifies saying, look, I'm charging more, but you're getting more.
Absolutely. Just um when I was doing the Airbnb management company, I had a mentor who wanted me to look up everyone in the area who was doing the same thing as me and listing everything that I was doing that they weren't doing or that they were doing that I needed to do. So make sure that you're paying attention to those things.
Now, before I get to the students' questions, because I got some good ones. Um, Obviously, because you mentioned the barriers for Black business owners, and we hear it on the news all the time. Funding is a very big issue,
Yes.
and the finding the team is a big issue. But even though technology is changing, the world is changing, trends are changing. There's never been a better time for kids to get into business, even if it's just as a side hustle.
Yeah.
But what are some ways that they can overcome these obstacles that they're going to face as they transition out of high school?
One, jump into it and do it. Two, um, try to do your research up front. A lot of times we're ready to sell, we're ready to create that website, and it's exciting. But some of the things that are like so boring, the paperwork, all of those things, those are the things that's going to set you up for success. So, like the business plan, you want to come up with how are you going to make money? How long is it going to take you to break even? All of those types of things that deal with research and finding and customer discovery. If you do not do discovery, definitely do that. That's when you kind of define who your target audience is, and then you ask them questions to kind of tailor your product or services to them. And that's what I did with Barter. I've done it about 3 times, and each time it's been about 40 different entrepreneurs. And then you don't ask them yes or no questions. You ask them questions where they can elaborate and tell you exactly what they need, what their pain points are, what they're having troubles with. But customer discovery is definitely a big one.
Yeah, and I forgot one more thing I wanted to mention too, because when we get done here, they're about to do presentations on entrepreneurs and how these companies started, and it's they get so upset that they have to speak in front of a class, and it's not to be mean, but how important is it, especially if you're going to be in any type of business, to be able to speak and articulate and market not only your product but yourself?
Oh my goodness. So you're talking to the person who hates speaking in front of the class. Absolutely. I just came from California last week. I was in an accelerator program where we had to pitch our businesses. And everyone said I did so well, but I swear I shake, I sweat, I do all of those things. So even still, I'm still nervous. But one of the things um someone told me before that my vision was bigger than my fear. So that helps me. I definitely think about that. And one of the things that I take with me is that I have to get comfortable with the uncomfortable, because when you're promoting a business and you're trying to sell yourself, you have to speak to people. And as
Yeah.
nervous as I still get, you just have to do it. Find a way to get comfortable with it, but how I do it is I just do it all the time. So any pitch competition that I find, I'm signing up for. Nervous as ever. The worst thing they can do is say no, you didn't get in. But if they do say yes, you made it to a finalist, then you have a chance to win money for your business. So you better get up there and speak.
Yeah. Tell me about it. But I do have some questions. I get to as many of these as I can. This person's hilarious. This is Caden
Okay.
Williams. He's in 10th grade, one of our football players here, one of our power lifters. And he asked, "What's the craziest barter you have ever had on your platform?"
Hmm. I haven't had too many crazy ones. I guess because mostly our business. Now you are able to do personal on the platforms. Like we've had people barter pitch coaching for cleaning or website for skincare. It hasn't been really any crazy ones. Now I have when I launched Barter Black, I bartered sign language services because I wanted to be inclusive to everyone for my event.
Wow.
So I had
Yeah.
I had interpreters come to my event and interpret the entire event. Now there was no one there that needed those services, but I wanted to make sure that I was inclusive. And I did not know that this person was connected to Rap Snaps. And after the event, she was like, "This was so great. I really appreciate it. We bartered." And she's like, "Would you want to be interviewed on Rap Snap's Instagram?"
Wow.
So things do come out of it, especially when you're not exchanging money. Like that creates a really great relationship with other business owners.
That's awesome. This is Terry Thompson. He's a
Yeah.
senior. He's one of our football players here, and he asked, when you hit the recession, did you ever want to give up?"
It's easy to say yes, right? Um, I think in business, there's always some type of reception. recession because it's ups and downs. There's peaks and like I was just talking to one of our business owners last night. It goes up and down. You have to be able to ride it out. If this is something that you're really serious about, it's easier to say, "Oh, this is not working," and I quit. But no matter what's going on in the world, in personal, especially, um, if the business is something that you want to do, then you have to figure out ways to make it work.
Absolutely. This is Shirai Luckett. He's in 10th grade. And he asked, what about your business are you most proud of?
Oh, wow. There's so much, but recently we just received our first patent. And
Oh,
if you
wow. Cool.
know, yeah, if you know, it's very dear to me because back when patents first started, um black people weren't able to get patents, and then some
That's
were
true.
stolen. So we received a design patent on our first iteration of our website. Actually
That's
it's
awesome.
on our website, so it's pretty cool. And we actually went through Howard University's patent clinics to help us with that, but I am
Wow.
considered a black inventor now.
That's awesome. Well, and it's well deserved because, just because it isn't a tangible item, you still
Right.
came up with a system that nobody's done. So that is a
Yep.
well deserved patent, in my opinion.
Thank you.
I just got time for two more. This is Robert Branson. He's a senior, one of our football players as well. And he asked, do you feel that Barter Black can be even more successful in the coming years?
Oh my goodness, yes. So I feel like Barter Black is going to be competing with the major freelancer platforms out here. Um, we are planning on. I just finished this accelerator and we received $10,000, which I'm so excited about. And we're going to use most of that for marketing. So I'm going to ramp up our marketing. We have a few little things since we relaunched in August. We have a few little things that we've are tweaking based off the feedback that we're receiving from our members. But if you know those freelancer platforms, Barter Black is definitely going to be competing with those platforms, and I cannot wait.
And one thing I'm going to do when we get done with this and it's recorded, I'm going to send this to all of our previous guests that we've had that are sole proprietors, especially during the DMV area. So,
Thank you.
want to promote them for them to be able to build their product. But this is such a great idea and concept that I really want to push it to all of them so they have the opportunity as well.
I appreciate it.
All right, last one. This is Anthony Walker, also already operating his own small business. He's a
Oh.
senior, one of our another one of our football players, and he asked, what has been your motivation to work so hard to get where you are today?"
Mm. My motivation is definitely my boys. I have a 16-year-old and a 6-year-old. And when I look back at when I was growing up, entrepreneurship was not talked about at our dinner table. I grew up in Washington, D.C., so it was go to school, graduate, get a good government job, and retire. Like it was nothing else. There were no other options. You go to college, of course. Um, but I want to let my children know and other, scholars know that entrepreneurship is an option. And that's my motivation to make sure that I keep going. It is not easy, and I want to make sure that any space that I'm in, I let people know this is not something that's going to be an overnight success. You have to really, really work for it. And if you think about it, and if you've heard any other stories of entrepreneurs or even celebrities, they'll tell you that this didn't happen overnight. But my motivation is definitely my boys.
That's awesome. Well, we're almost out of time, and we thank you so much for taking some time for us. But a couple things before we go.
Okay.
First of all, barterblack.io is the website.
Yes.
All the social media handles are on there. All the cool stuff you're doing, you'll put out there, or anywhere else we can find what all Barter Black's doing.
Our website, I'm on LinkedIn, we're on Instagram, and we're on Facebook.
Awesome. Now, the last thing before we go, and I don't know if you noticed, I have all young men in here with me today.
I
Our young lady in the class was not able to make it. She's not here. I hate it, but I talk about this a lot. I know they get sick of it, but I think it's something, a conversation that needs to be had. Why is it so important for us to have more Black male leaders in our community?
Mm, wow. It's that's who that's that oh that's a loaded question. As someone, um, and it's so crazy. I was thinking about this morning how amazing my dad is. I'm in love with the man that is my dad because he's so amazing. Even in our older years, he supports us, and just that support and that being there um does a lot for the community. We have to see more male figures in our community because it shows our young men what's possible. Um,
Absolutely.
it 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 it's something about seeing yourself in someone else that's already doing it that creates that generational wealth. I had a one of my members in our customer discovery. I always ask, are you creating generation? What kind of generational wealth are you creating in your business? And she was not looking to pass down her business. She was looking to pass down her knowledge, because she knows that her knowledge is going to create generational knowledge for others. So it's super important to have Black male leaders in the community so we can create more Black male leaders. And so we, as a family, male and female, can just be great.
Absolutely. Well, again, we thank you so much for fitting us in your schedule. Nicole Murphy, all the way from Washington, D.C., founder, Black inventor of Barter Black. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. And thanks for all the questions. They were great.
All right. Thank you. Talk to you soon, buddy.
Alrighty.
See ya.